It's been 24 years since a Republican carried the swing state of New Hampshire in a presidential election. And now Donald Trump adding it to the list of blue states he is aiming to flip red this November. New Hampshire Governor Sununu joins us now. Governor, it's great to see you. So, Governor, we see Team Biden, I believe they have about 14 different field offices around the state. Team Trump, I believe, has one in addition, and then another state party headquarters. But you have a political apparatus that helped get you elected to governor. What do you plan on doing to help President Trump win this election?
Well, again, President Trump and the Trump-Biden election is kind of its own thing. And one thing I've kind of been trying to tell the team is, well, the president goes into some of these swing states like New Hampshire. He does the rallies. He gets a lot of folks out there. A lot of new folks are coming. Those are great. One thing that I've been telling the campaign that they should be doing to keep differentiating themselves from the Biden campaign is those retail stops, right? Those classic retail stops. It could be something as simple as walking into a coffee shop or whatever it might be. When President Trump walks into a coffee shop, the whole place goes crazy and the news goes crazy. It's all over the place. Biden can't do that, right? Because he's afraid to be asked a question, or he goes in and he eats an ice cream cone. He looks foolish. So finding those paths and those opportunities for former President Trump to keep differentiating himself, I think is going to be key in a lot of these different swing states. That's campaigning. That's how you win these races on the ground.
No, but the point I'm making is, you have an existing infrastructure in this state, and polls show that this is viable for President Trump. So, surely you could help utilize that infrastructure to help him win.
I don't know if I have an infrastructure. I'm not running for anything. But the other opportunity is the other campaigns. Like I'm stepping down as governor. You have two good candidates running in their primary to replace me. Those infrastructures, those armies on the ground are very valuable. The other thing New Hampshire has is 400 members of the House of Representatives. And what that means is we have 400 House campaigns going on right now. And so that's the infrastructure that presidential candidates, if they're smart, can really tap into. Those are folks that are on the ground, knocking on doors, talking to people every single day for 400 races across a small state like New Hampshire. That's an incredible army, if you will, for the Republican Party. In New Hampshire, like a lot of these other swing states, I think you got to win ground up, right? If you get the base out there, if you get the average everyday voters talking to their neighbors and their friends and family, if that's the infrastructure you're putting to work, that helps the top of the ticket. Trump only lost here by couple thousand votes or something in 2016, so it is very much in play for him going into 24.
Well, and to that point, Governor, we have seen polling showing Trump up in the state of New Hampshire. How winnable is New Hampshire for him?
It's very winnable. Oh, there's no question. Oh, this will be a nail biter. It'll be within 1 or 2% either way. Latest poll had him up a couple percent here. Now, that was right after the debate. So, again, that will tend to crest down to probably more of a dead even split type of race. But as we've all seen in previous elections, our 4 electoral votes can be a difference maker. So my sense is the former president is going to keep coming here. The current president realizes he has to put infrastructure. He's got, like you said, 14 offices or something ridiculous like that. So the Biden administration is wasting their money because and kind of flailing in a defensive position, using, as to your point, that infrastructure that the former President Trump can use to be in an offensive, optimistic, forward-looking type of campaign with that type of attitude. New Hampshire's doing really, really well, right? So, but inflation and the border are still the top issues, right? So to be able to come here, keep talking about those issues, that makes it a very winnable state in November.
Well, and of course, we're seeing a lot of Joe Biden crater in these polls, particularly in New Hampshire post-debate, which seems to align with the cratering of his health as well. Governor Sununu, thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. We appreciate your time, sir.
You bet. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.